Welcome to the Community Breakfast Show today, 15th November 2021. We'll be your host today, Zipporah Mushala and Alex Shimba. Today we're focusing on what is happening in our communities in Zambia. We're focusing on Lusaka, looking at community gangs, commonly known as junkies, electricity cable theft, and indiscriminate waste disposal. Our guest today will be Mr. Boniface Tiweka Mutendere, Ward 38 Councillor, and feel free to call us on the numbers that will be scrolling on your screen to let us know what is happening in your communities around Zambia, the things you'd want us to focus on.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Boost. I'm sure you've been following our programs and not just watching but also trying to exercise. So welcome, and today we're going to be working on the abs. All right, let's go. Warm up. Let's go. Same jumping jacks. Instead of going all the way up, this time here we go. That's your warm-up today. Go. So that's a 1 minute warm up. Let's do some abs workout now. Okay, as you can see, I came with a bottle of water. We're gonna do some Russian twist. There you go. Get a bottle, put it down there. If you have a dumbbell, good for you. I'm gonna sit here, working on the abs. Lean back a bit. There you go. 1. 7. 10. Okay, go to the second one. We're going to come back to this one. Here we go. Lie down. That was 10. I'm going to do another 10. Let's go. That's 10. Bring back the bottle. Let's go. 10. Eight and 9. 10. Go down. Let's go. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's the set, which is 40. If you want after that, you can take a break. Let's do another one now. Still on the abs. Okay. I'm gonna be now sliding on the side. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 15-second break, then you go back to the workout again. Another 10. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many? 8, 9, 10 for those that are watching on Facebook. So that's 20. Here we go now. Elbow to knee crunches. and then we start doing it. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Change. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So you've done your abs workout for today, and we do that again, and it's going to work out fantastic for you. Let's cool down. I only have seconds to my 5 minutes now, and very soon I'll be signing out. So that's how you do your abs workout. We did 3, if you noticed. So let's go march and start cooling down. March, march, march. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I've enjoyed my session with you. Looking forward to train with you again. Let's go.
So welcome to the Community Breakfast Show. We're looking at zooming the headlines. And so on the community desk yesterday, we saw a news in the headlines done by Patrick Soko talking about the issue of junkies in Chawama compound. So junkies are known as community gangs. Junkies is a local term, and these are youths who usually rob people at night, and during the day they engage in drug and alcohol abuse, and at night they go and rob people. So mainly junkies come about due to lack of empowerment. Many people do not have productive activities to venture into, and hence they end up doing criminal activities at night. Alex?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Zipporah, on the show. You know, what we saw yesterday in Patrick Soko, like you said, is something that is consistent in our communities, given that there are a number of cases that are going hiking in our communities. And from the review that the police did, about 14,500 cases have been recorded this far, compared to last year's same period where we had about 14,100 cases. So you can see the difference actually is something that even should concern us as people in these communities, because if we're having this situation consistently happening in our communities, then what do we hope, what do we see next? You know, so it's worsening, something that is worsening, and we hope that authorities that may take this up and also try to see how best it can be addressed. So it's something that is really worrying at the moment.
And most people say it's because of the coronavirus, because the coronavirus has further increased the vulnerabilities. But that should not be an excuse. Youth should find something productive to do. Yeah. And the government of the day has actually promised to increase empowerment schemes. So we hope that with the increase, with the coming of the Ministry of Small Medium Enterprises Development, some of these instances will reduce. So Lusaka is actually a hub. These activities happen in Lusaka. They happen mainly in Lusaka, in other parts of the country as well, but mainly in Lusaka due to rural-urban migration. Many people have come here looking for jobs, but because they did not find those jobs, they venture into unproductive activities. So we'll take a look at the story done by Patrick Soko from Chawama compound yesterday on the topic of junkies.
Lusaka's John Howard compound in Chawama constituency has been experiencing a rise in crime levels. Alcohol, drug and substance abuse have been on the increase, coupled with poor parenting, which has seen a rise in juvenile delinquency. This dam, which has been at the center of controversy for irregularities ranging from open-air burning to illegal dumping of waste in broad daylight, is where gangs spend most of their time. And this house houses about 15 boys and girls, part of the gang, which caused havoc on Friday 14th November 2021, terrifying the people of this neighborhood, as one of the residents explains.
Whereby kuna pezi ka wafana woka pena manamba na kuri wafana wankala pa nyumba inango pa neighbor part wankala bakazi veka na wamuna, maybe they are almost 20 so mu nyumba imozi mu one room. Imagine mukangari mu one room muri 20 ero wafana abo bapezi kamanji bamenya abantu. It was yesterday night paniwe na pezi kati even ma damages yana chiteka. Meanwhile munyumba mwenu mwana wacha ma damages ayo munina mwana odwala whereby still akapena lero vinga ngale ko result ngangale result ya branch kama pa security siri bwino because now ba police mukaenda ku police the same night kwenda ku police wapushingirana endako iwe banabwera pa time nisha wafana wapwanya vonse kono baba nakuba ma dishes and the other things.
They are pleased that the Zambia police and other law enforcement wings help bring sanity.
Munyumba muni mwana wodwala munyumba kapaka anadogona na hospital mwana watomushita discharge kuseni ku fukata majanti because condition amene alimo safu nikomvera vya chongo mwaviona tifuna tandizo kuno kujona wadi majanki yavuta padamu ndipo amene wapezeka noto kaenda ku polisi kuti wabwere wa polisi bachedwa kubwera funa baende baja bayo pa polisi boma yanganepo muno mujona wadi wasungira chani padamu bashita na malenti muno mukombo mujona wadi na nyumba amene wasungira chani
nkhala more than 30-50 years muno mukombo but izaka izvana manje batekenga advantage yoti vutisa sitigona vankhala pa nyumba imodzi na vakazi 20 so munyumba na kupanga chongo kuuluma vana vang'ono. Please boma ikakoni nzeru vana muvatenge mafuneko vochita kuti mwapase kuminda vakalime kuti tizidi tizingawo kuta muno Mzambia kuti vana vazifuna kuphwanya manyumba ya vantu kupaya vantu iyayi ndiye dandaula yanga na dandaula kukuboma kuti itikireko nzeru nayo polisi kana kuti ukadandaule polisi nayo sikakona nzeru manje tisankhala bwanji muno mziko.
I spoke to Jonah Ward 3 councillor Ponsilo Piri, who assured that measures will be put in place to curb lawlessness.
I raised that issue to say actually these same boys who are doing the recycling or packing these things for recycling are the ones who are terrorizing the residents, especially in the evening. And I think from the information I was told was that there are just some people, these same thieves who actually were just taking advantage of the place, because it's dark, when those guys have knocked off, they're the ones who start terrorizing the resident. So I've taken note of that, and I've informed those who are in charge of the neighborhood watch to ensure that those guys are apprehended and taken to police. 3
of the suspects were arrested. However, if law enforcement wings do not act swiftly, the situation may deteriorate to worst levels. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
An interesting story there. We saw Patrick Soko reporting on the issue, the perennial problem of community gangs. And Alex, what do you think about, first of all, look at the structure they were in. What do you think about the structure, the issue of unplanned settlements? What's your thought on that?
First of all, it's surprising because if you 14 plus people mixed in that small house, mixed both male and female in one room. So I'm caused to think what's happening in the room that they have. That's quite strange to start with, and then I'm sure this is where they are planning and everything. Where do we attack? How do we see this? So meaning it's not only the boys who are doing these mischiefs, but also the female, but which is worrying in this area. So it's something, like I said, it's something that is happening in our communities. It's not just Chawama, but we are seeing all our communities across the country being affected by these junkies and the crimes.
And so obviously one can think that what are they doing in that building, like you say, probably the issues of drug abuse, alcohol abuse. So these are things that police need to look into. Probably police need to go there at a time when they do not suspect and actually do a raid and find out what is in that house, and I'm sure they would uncover a lot of things. So another issue one of the residents brought out was the issue of police patrols.
Exactly. Security in terms of what's the human resource.
What is the human resource?
How much the numbers in terms of the security, the police officers are, visiting and such areas. So I don't know, do we need...
Because I remember during the 2021 general elections, we were being told that we have 1 policeman for 1,000 Zambians.
You see, so the ratio doesn't tally.
It doesn't tally. So definitely need to do more in terms of police recruitments.
So maybe the question could be, do we, recruit more police officers, or do we just include the communities themselves, like in some sort of neighborhood patrols where they engage themselves to also be on the lookout, to also patrol? That is why I don't know if we need more officers. I don't know, what do you think on that?
I think maybe part of the CDF money can be channeled towards funding community neighborhood watches.
Yes.
I think so. Since we have seen an increase in CDF, I think some of this money can be used to actually fund neighborhood watches so that they can maybe give some form of security in these communities.
Yes, but it's something unfortunate indeed, because you see these people who are older, like the older age, are the ones complaining and being affected. And they say Zambia is a youthful country, meaning what's our future if we're having these youths involving themselves in such activities? I think it's something that cause for worry. So,
and I think maybe these community gangs, who are commonly known as junkies, are actually taking advantage of the low human resource. The police are not adequate. The numbers of the police are not adequate to conduct patrols that will make a difference throughout the day. For example, in Chibolia compound, you find that is one of the places where the criminal gangs have taken advantage. In broad daylight, they will attack you. Actually, about a month ago, I witnessed someone being attacked by about 4 junkies with knives. We actually aired the story, yes.
Yeah.
About 4 people in broad daylight, because they know that even if I do this, by the time the police come, I would have already gone.
Yes.
So this is a serious issue. People are getting robbed in broad daylight. Another issue which is making headlines on the community desk is the story of GBV.
yeah.
We saw in Kanyama where a man beat up his wife for his slippers going missing, slippers which are less than 30 kwacha. So what's your thought on such issues?
Yeah, you and I can bear witness. You know, we've witnessed a GBV case that side in somewhere Lusaka West. In the car, you remember that. So the cause of GBV in terms of fightings is something that is raised over these trivial issues. You find that they're just quarreling over assault or something, but it will escalate until someone beats a wife or a husband. So to me, it's something that goes beyond the sleepers, like we see in the story. It's something that goes to I don't know, the disturbances in the marriage setup and everything, the home setup, the culture, and all these other factors come to play, because you can't normally, like in a normal state, beat your wife over a sleeper. I mean, it doesn't really add up. But when you investigate the emotional stability of this man, you find that they are facing a lot of challenges. Maybe it could be addiction to alcohol and also other vices that they may be facing at the moment. So it's something that goes beyond, I think.
Okay, and one thing some gender organizations have been calling for is for an institution to be set up. They're saying, wow, there is an office under the office of the president talking about gender issues. They want an institution that will mainstream gender issues. So they want these issues to be mainstream, so that the way, because they feel like the office under the desk under the office of the president will be kind of limited. So they want an institution that will mainstream gender issues affecting both boys and girls. So take a look at Miriam's story yesterday, which was part of the community headlines on the story of GBV.
The trauma that she has been through cannot be explained or described further than this. Grace Mwape of Lusaka's Kanyama compound says she has enough of her husband's daily abuse. In an exclusive interview with Camnet TV, the 30-year-old Grace Mwape, whose left eye is swollen due to several beatings by her husband, wants him to face the law as she feels her life is at stake and is tired of the violence in her home. Her husband, 36-year-old Derek Mwape, a security guard, is said to have assaulted her after his slippers, costing less than 30 kwacha, went missing. A cooking stick, a police belt, and a short baton is alleged to have been used. Only neighbors came to her rescue.
Washa kwa fumile kuma 15 hours pako kushikimbe washa solo na ishile uniform pero na ishile ingira mwana nati na ndareko kai ishile uniform so ba ichona be na ba ishile fuma pofi tewena kuingira solo bachi sare ro biche kuko mwana nde kama silipa mforo sasa kama silipa dana pepo isani tayo ama silipa aliku na tunamuli mwana kuna ishile na chisa ingira mwana nasanga tambuli nati ndimbiba iba pantu nalima ndo kungira nshishi bya bakishara pansi bamla iteti ulande plant bali wa ungalekelesha shani fawo masipa yandi pansi na wishibe bope na iso lande bili to achisa kuya na mukono tabachi nuko akweba chani tuwako fepa no kubwere bavu basanga ni ndala
Meanwhile, Concerned Citizen for Justice and Human Rights Organization, where the victim had rushed to report a case to, wonders why a man would physically assault his wife, whom he has been married to for over 5 years and have a child together, can reach at such an extent to assault his wife over missing slippers, which cost less than 30 kwacha.
The challenge that we have as a country, we don't have women rehabilitation shelters. Most of the women, they don't have a capacity. They don't have a capacity to do business on their own because of the culture which they are living in. Marriage is not a picture club. Marriage is where people, they need to live together, plan together, sharing ideas together. That is marriage. Marriage must dwell on love, according to the Bible. Now, most of the women, they are suffering in that way.
The husband was, however, unreachable to present and defend himself over these allegations by the wife. In Zambia, cases of domestic violence have in recent years been increasing. Most of the victims are women, not only suffer physically and emotionally, but sometimes also end up being killed. Miriam Kemba reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it. That's a story, sad story indeed, that involved a woman, a 30-year-old woman from Kanyama, being beaten by her husband. And if you notice from the story, there are certain key factors that are playing in terms of employment. She's not doing things like employment in terms of work, of official work at the moment. So maybe that could be also the factor that we can see that facilitate this GBV, the rise of GBV activities in our communities. And I don't know if you can just contribute on that, basically on what you face and what have been your experience in terms of GBV cases, even in your communities. So you can just go through from the numbers that are scrolling from the screen. You can just maybe ask a question or contribute to this show. So basically, so we have a caller.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Taiwan. I'm just watching. I just wanted to go back on the patrol of the police hostel.
All right, thank you so much. You can go ahead with your contribution, madam.
Yeah, the police service was engaged for so many years. For sure, the number is small against the crimes which are happening, especially this time. In it is very, very dangerous. I wanted to advise the police if maybe abasaba police balowezwa nga kuli okufanikisha okutukwingira mu mayanja okuuza ekinga buno bulino because abaama junkies n'abaakaboolala 3 quarters bafumana mu polisi mwine. You'll find that the one that is working to American 27. You'll find that the one that is working uniforms. That are from your where we are finding a police officer coming to approach you without a card. A police officer should come maybe to arrest a person with a card of his name. He starts introducing himself by his number. I'm so, Inspector Chief, I'm arresting you for this offense. Now this time to when I'm officers, ever need to say so. Niche but it's so. Yeah? But it's a police officer here, I enough wala, so that one spoke with it. Nobody police to a man of woman, he has never died for a night, Pisama, Tiny Monica Monica. Baka Pola, Papa Pola, Natas, Yola, the China Maya, that Emuyama drive. But I said, the Pena for 09. We have read that Baka Pola, interest ya interest ya iko ya kwa yokwebasi ya kubakulisha kuchita apa jupe asinzi apa kete ya kwebasi ngachapa basi aya kubawani na direka ili neka tulipuni mubu tekele na pita nemo bamrela pakopola la ingira mubu tungu apa le titepi sotiago namba zalekisa nakubata kiraimu takuyu muntu kumwishiba takwanga dafa mwatagira abantu bakakokora ula shute bantu inshira indire mu polisi yali na mungu tungu so if you are talking to my tuanire kubande kushika nokutwine batera bakaja akakwela singa kubika pamoja wa beta sio wiki magata ila kufuti na kwa makata ama lo baka za makata za kwata ama yuko ya makata za kwata gambe tapoishi ikrine yuko kraita yako.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling through.
Okay, I think one of the issues she talked about was about people having illegal firearms and the need to conduct a search in these communities. So I remember is it about 3 weeks ago when Police Inspector General Mr. Limika Juba said there is an award of about 1,000 kwacha for someone. Is it 1,000 kwacha?
Yeah, for those who are recalling the armed
yes,
guns.
tell them. I think this is an exercise that needs to be done because you saw even just last week where police actually confiscated a number of firearms from some criminals, which means these things are actually happening in our communities. This is very dangerous, and I hope the police actually take some of those suggestions, such as conducting searches in some of these houses.
Yeah, but if you had her right, Zipporah, she mentioned something to do with this armed weapons, where we're having police officers being involved in providing these, because the question is, where are these junkies getting the guns? You understand? So those are the things that we need. We have another caller.
We've got a call, just wait a minute.
Yes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Christopher Manda.
Mr. Christopher, you can go ahead. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Mandela constituency, Mr. Civic Tazanga.
All right, you can go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, Ishama Ganki, Chokera Makolo, because the Manafungira Mana Pamanyunga. watu wakupokola kafunongenamo siba bagwire kuti nizo abene makoro kyako kabla kumo bakapokola bagwira kwire bantu balikola balibwana because we are giving bakapokola their freedom to do their way.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. So we should watch our children at home, not over that every time.
Thank you very much for your contribution, sir.
All right.
Okay. And so, zooming in, continuing to look at the topics of community gangs, we're going to look at a story from Mutendere compound on the same issue, because this compound is also affected by the issue of junkies. While we're playing the story, after that we're going to have an interview with Mr. Boniface Chiweka, Mutendere Ward 38 councillor, who's going to talk about the issues affecting Mutendere compound, and these issues are affecting other parts of Lusaka and other parts of the country. So these issues are the issue of community gangs, electricity cable theft, and indiscriminate waste disposal. So we'll have a look at the story on community gangs from Mutendere compound. Many communities in Lusaka are packed with a high number of youths, and majority of them do not engage in any economic activity, mostly due to the lack of capital to start up businesses. This has led to an increase in crime levels around communities, as these youths spend their days engaging in drug and alcohol abuse and tend to robbing citizens at night. For a long time now, residents of various compounds such as Kanyama, Misisi, Chibolya, and Mutendere in Lusaka have been terrorized by the criminal gangs who are locally known as junkies. Inspector General of Police Mr. Lemika Joba recently indicated an increase in the criminal gangs and directed police to curb the said criminal activities. However, residents of Mutendere compound say they are not being helped by the police in the area, who cite lack of manpower and inadequate police vehicles.
We've got a lot of unruly youths called the junks in Mutendere there. Junks are about 100 meters away from the police station, but we don't seem to be getting enough help that we need. Because these chaps, they attack people at any time, and the police are not doing anything about it. So maybe if a neighborhood watch can be formed and part of the money to be channeled to neighborhood watch so that they can help the police in terms of security, so that they can combat the issues of junks in Mutendere. We also need street lighting in Mutendere. There are times when there's no ZESCO power, so we need the street lights which are powered by solar to be put up in certain roads which are of great importance.
The residents say one of the solutions is to build more police posts around crime-prone communities and ensure that these are adequately staffed and equipped.
Zifuna kamba kupali majanki like Mutendere East Kalikiliki bativuta maningi. We would love as a government utandizeko according to the budget yanyachoka, like pama police yatu ma stations waibe mamotoka duty vehicles, at least wakazienda on patrol na mamotoka. It would really help.
Stakeholders have been calling for empowerment of these youths, saying it is only when youth engage in productive activities that crime levels will significantly reduce. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka. We have with us Mr. Boniface Chiweka, Mutendere Ward 34 councillor, who's going to tell us more about how bad the situation of junkies is in Mutendere. So we're taking an example of Mutendere because it is one of the areas affected by the same. We're not saying it's specific to Mutendere, but also other areas. So Mr. Chiweka, welcome to the show. Good morning. How are you today?
Fine, thank you, and good morning too, and good morning, viewers.
Oh, yes, good morning. So basically, can you tell us how serious is the issue of junkies in Mutendere, and maybe what you think mainly is causing this problem?
To start with, when we are just saying junkies, it's like we're even understating it. I would say that is criminal gangs in infancy and in transit also. Why do I say so? Because those are the same people who becomes hardcore criminals. So that's what they are called, the junks, and they take drugs. And the drugs they call, there's a common term there they use, they call it, there is known as voro. So much that a person becomes like a vegetative state, sort of semi-alive. I would say semi-alive in the sense that if somebody takes that, they neither feel or have, feelings are temporarily suspended, and they can do anything. They can kill a person, they can steal without any remorse or any feelings whatsoever the case. So the situation is very bad, and there are a lot of them.
Okay, so mainly what you, I'm sure most of this arises from maybe lack of productive activities to do. Do you think maybe that is the major cause? What do you think mainly causes? Is it maybe due to lack of employment opportunities, or is it that even if they had employment opportunities, they're still engaged in this? What mainly maybe could be the main cause?
Mostly, we cannot just talk about the effects of a community without talking about the genesis. My observation is that it starts from their homes, parenthood. Others, they lack parenthood. They have no parents. Others, they have been raised by single mothers who are incapable of taking them to school, who are incapable of coaching them into a reasonable growing adult. But in most cases, after that, others haven't gone to school. Others, apart from not going to school, they don't even go to church. They don't hang around with responsible people. They are just human beings. So at the end of the day, they become junkies. They start taking drugs, and they are usually found at B section of Mtendere. And thanks to the new officer in charge at Mtendere Police Force, Mr. Banda, at least last week they had an operation and they picked some. Except, even if they pick some, one disappointing thing that the following day they will be released, they will pay admission of guilt fine and released. And again they will go back and do the same thing they do, attacking people, taking drugs. Again they will be released again. Then the cycle continues, the vicious cycle continues like that, without like a better result out of it.
So Alex, do you think maybe having rehab centers in some of these communities can be the way forward of solving some of these problems?
Yes, I can think so, but I feel Mr. Chweka is in the right position of actually telling us what could be the ways of addressing this issue. And I'm sure from, maybe if we just backtrack from the time you aspired for being a councillor in the area, I'm sure you had thought of such problems in your compound. And so my question would be, what could be the main reason that you would assure people in your area to say there is hope, there is still hope for this thing to be addressed, even as in the capacity of a councillor?
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. Looking at this new budget which is coming into effect, supposed it is approved by Parliament. Because we cannot just say, oh, the budget next year, not until it is approved by Parliament. Now, if supposedly it is approved by Parliament, I'm sure you have seen there's the issue of devolution of powers coming down to the ward level, meaning that as councillor and the team WDC will be responsible, like for example, for things like bursaries, to offer bursaries to vulnerable people who are capable of completing their education. We also have a council skills training point in Mtendere that we need to refurbish so that we can bring on board such people. And again, if somebody is already a junkie, you don't just bring him just on board or you look for employment for such people. No, because they will still continue. The first thing is rehabilitation, just like you have alluded to. Once the rehabilitation takes place, thereafter, that's when you look for somebody, for something to do for somebody. Because without rehabilitation of those people, again, they will still go back to their old ways.
Okay, so I'm sure that CDF, now that it has been increased, I'm sure it will help in many areas. I'm sure we can find solutions to some of these problems, such as junkies.
Yeah, maybe just to just chip in. There's this common phrase that people in communities usually use whenever you go there as us in the media. You find Boma Ilanganepo, and it has been used for a long time now. And maybe in your capacity as councillor, would you feel, or maybe give assurance to the people that that statement would actually come to pass in terms of fighting this vice in the community?
Actually, that syndrome of saying Boma Ilanganepo, it's like shifting the blame and shifting the responsibility of our children to the government. I would be on point if I was going to stress that the smallest unit of government is a family, because a family, out of a family, then in many families you have neighbors, many neighbors you have a community, many community you have a ward you have district, it will form constituencies and the country at large. So at the end of the day, to me the smallest unit of government is the family. So the responsibility, if each and every parent was going to be responsible for their parents and for their children and their deeds, then the whole nation would be clean and would be in good state, other than leaving that responsibility to the government. That's what I would say over that.
So people need to come up with good parenting skills so that they can end this problem. Another issue we have seen, which is happening in Lusaka, is the issue of electricity cable theft. We've had instances where this has been happening for years. People, one day you just wake up, you find your cables for your house have been cut off. You don't have electricity connection to your house. So Mutendere compound is one of the areas affected by the same, but this has been happening in many parts of Lusaka and across the country. So we'll take a look at a story concerning electricity cable theft, and we'll discuss the story in detail.
Barely a month after some residents of Lusaka's Mtendere compound woke up to a shock after noticing that some thugs had stolen electric cables transmitting electricity from the ZESCO post to their homes, the thugs have once again hit, and this time around, 5 houses have been load-shedded after armed criminals vandalized electric cables, leaving some of the live cables in a dangerous position. The residents have reported that ZESCO, when called upon, has not been responding quickly to their calls, as the live cables pose a serious threat to their lives.
Blackout, so isetaganza yaenda malaiti so kuuka kusenta peza ya malaiti bajuba kemp so ine baneni pempako cheba ZESCO baikeko nzeri.
My neighbors about 7 Munum Road in the street. So what I would like to say is that I don't know how the procedures are, because we've reported today to the police, from the police. They have told us we will go 16 hours. But looking at others that were cut off, down Uja, they have been waiting even up to now. Problem was the boy sorting out. So ZESCO in a how long are we going to wait? Because rain season here, and so
others who have been affected have complained that if electricity is not restored to their homes on time, they risk losing resources, as their tenant will not agree to pay money when their house has no electricity.
So the landlords here, school, but there's no money, somebody to pay us. Just because of what? There's no electricity today for our tenants. Please, use ZESCO. Please help us.
And the area councillor Boniface Chibeka, who rushed to help the resident, narrates what transpired.
5 houses are involved, and they've understand, according to the eyewitnesses on the other house there, the robbers came with a vehicle and a gun. According to what they saw, that they even had a gun, and they shouted, they even threatened to shoot them. That's when they sped off with the vehicle. But by the time they are speeding off, they had already cut all the 5 houses, all the service cables for the houses.
The councillor, however, says the measures put in place to prevent the live cables from electrocuting the residents are temporal and need the intervention of ZESCO before the onset of the rain season.
This service cable is a live cable. There's power here. So it was hanging somewhere here. That's around this, that is about 50 centimeters above the ground. So I had to put a cut-off plastic container there, tie it and secure it there, so that to secure it, so that to prevent any loss of life or harm to anyone here.
With increased cases of ZESCO cables being targeted by thugs, are the police doing enough patrols to ensure that criminals who take advantage of the dark are brought to book? Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The continued indiscriminate cutting of electricity cables by unknown people has dismayed residents of Mutendere compound in Lusaka. This has been ongoing for many years, as the cables are said to be fetching close to 12,000 kwacha on the market, as they are made from copper rods. About 4 houses have been affected in Mutendere compound within the last 48 hours, leaving them in the dark. This has also left live wires hanging, posing as a threat to people's lives. Barely a week ago, the life of a 7-year-old boy was lost in the area after he touched a live wire which was left hanging. Residents have called on police to increase surveillance.
Wese tiko na problem yantili nayo ni ama kebwa yavuta kubewa kuno. Mtendere ni kwa mbili kwa kwa bewa, so hapa wanachiko tijuila mazo. So tina problem ya malaiti, tibe malaiti. Ndiyo mafriji sikungo onongeka. Then yakatikira kwa makebu at least wazipita mopitamu kutisheki ngilako shukwa ya vuta.
Mutendere Ward 38 Councillor Mr. Boniface Chiveka has also added his voice.
But there are other houses, they haven't removed, they are still hanging whereby we are likely to have an accident from there if it is not going to be removed quickly, because there are people, drunkards, we have kids, we have those who just do loitering around at night, they may get affected like that. So I'm appealing to ZESCO to move in and remove those remaining service cables which are hanging.
Meanwhile, ZESCO Public Relations Manager Ms. Hezu Zulu had this to say.
I also just want to warn the perpetrators of this vice that ZESCO is alert. We are working closely with other stakeholders in, security entities to ensure that we nip this. So we'll definitely catch up with them.
The residents have called for quick action from the police, stating that they can hardly sleep as they feel they need to protect the cables connecting electricity to their homes. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka. Okay, so an interesting story there. We've seen that people are actually making money from ZESCO cables or electricity cables, and yet they're leaving other people in the dark. So you find that since these cables are outside, people will keep putting, and people will keep stealing the same cable. So I think we have to find long-lasting solutions to the problem. So Mr. Chibeka, mainly, what do you think about this topic in general on the theft of electricity cables?
Thank you very much. My opinion is that, you know, the way we've been brought up, especially in Mtendere, we've been fearing ZESCO cables. You cannot just touch it anyhow. For example, me, I touched it because I touched it to correct it so that our children don't touch it. Because I'm an electrotechnologist by profession. So those who cut, the way they do, they cut, they steal. They don't just do that. I'm suspecting that...
Okay. All right, so we'll just pause for a minute to take a call. Okay, we lost that one, so you can continue, Mr.
Okay, yes, I'm suspecting people who are trained, who knows what they are doing. And I'm also appealing to ZESCO Limited, Zambia Electricity Corporation Supply, in this regard, to employ permanent employees, because those casuals they employ, like 6 months to 9 months, or maybe a year, or 18 months, they do away with them. After orienting those casual workers to the ZESCO infrastructure, what do they become afterwards? What do they become and where do they go? Because if they, immediately the contract is terminated, they no longer have where they can get some money and keep their families. Where do they go and what do they do afterwards? So I'm appealing to ZESCO to be employing people on permanent grounds. I'm sure when they do this, we are likely to see a downsized activity concerning theft of cables. That's what I feel.
Okay, so viewers, feel free to call us on the following numbers: 0968 675273 or 0973 167840. So we have a call there.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Once again, I just want to get to the council of the Daily.
Okay, what?
I think we can that stuff of the way no. That is the history. Now, because community, is the history of community, as we were working, normally to convey by just go to the you pretend that this is a coach, you have a lot of them with your money. Because we should go to the government. Please, the council. Baba appreciate for another business, Baba appreciate for the paper with you can find out the that, but I think I want to invest for. But I think the man is not more than this way. There's another payment they have done all that. That's it. All takes to move to achieve your life.
Thank you so much for that contribution. And just recently, Zipporah, we had an issue of power cut, especially in Mtendere, where about 4 days you went without power. And I'm sure the councillor would attest to that. So having a situation where these people from the same compound are stealing cables, and the ZESCO Corporation manager, Ms. Dr. Kunda, has been talking about this over and over, the issue of stealing cables that affects the company as well. So what would be your comment to that? Because we're having a challenge of power cuts.
Do you think neighborhood watches, maybe to put it simpler, do you think neighborhood watches are the way forward?
We have some, thank you very much. We have some neighborhood watch groups in Mtendere, but they are not as effective as they are supposed to. You see, the neighborhood of then and the neighborhood of nowadays should be different. You know, just like technology is changing, even the way of doing security business should equally change, should go in line with the new technology. You know, this issue of just saying, oh, we are grouping up, we are neighborhood, we start rolling around the street, roaming around the street at night, that we are neighborhood and come back. It should come to an end. we should devise method of new technological way, new formulas of security, so that, because the thieves and the criminals, they already know the formula of neighborhood. So if they know, how are we going to catch them? And others may be the members of those same neighborhoods. So my thing is that we should start a new principle, especially a principle of like know your neighbor, to check your neighbor. Because these people, we know them, they are our neighbors. Even the last caller mentioned that we know them. But the issue is that no, chite. You know, that issue of familiarity. Just because he's your neighbor, you see him doing something either wrong or carrying a contraband, you cannot even ask, you can't even come to the police or to the councillor's office. You come and whisper that you are suspecting there's something bad happening at that house, but you think that nobody reports that. Not until something bad, that's when they'll start saying, no, we suspect this and this could have done this. So I'm appealing to the members of the community, even as our city at large, because I'm not just a councillor from Tendere, I'm a councillor for Lusaka City Council, meaning that the whole district I'm a councillor. Except that, of course, my area of concentration should be Mtendere Ward 34. Let's be proactive. My appeal that let's be proactive. Let's not wait for something bad to happen. That's when you come to the police or to the council to start whispering who you think should have committed a crime. So let us know our neighbors, who our neighbors is. Let us check our neighbors. Who are they? Who do you live with? Who do you drink with? If there are any suspicious activity, kindly, if you secretly pass on that information, either to police directly, either to some people you think you may trust, pass them that information that you are suspecting there's this and this and this happening. Then, like that, we are going to clean out our neighborhood.
And one thing we do not realize, or maybe the thieves of these electricity cables do not realize, is that they actually negatively affect lives. For example, about 2 months ago, I did a story where a 7-year-old child lost his life because of an electricity cable which was just left hanging. And these were just some kids who were playing, and eventually he touched the cable and got electrocuted and died on the spot. By the time he was being taken to the clinic there, they were told this is brought-in dead. So looking at the issue also of people losing lives due to these cables. So what is your comment maybe basically on what dangers do these wires bring to people's lives when they're left hanging?
These wires, when they left hanging unattended to, they pose a serious danger. They may electrocute a person, they may cause fire and cause damage to property, they may also cause a disturbance on an electric infrastructure for ZESCO, depending on the nature of fault it might have. Maybe it has a short circuit afterwards, then it bringing a disturbance, and if it bringing a disturbance, we have a power cut, which means it will affect the economy. We have people who are running butcheries, we have people who are running barber shops, we have people who are doing welding. All those, they will be affected. And you know, in today's economy and the food, our food basket, we usually keep food in our fridges, so they will be destroyed. Then apart from that, when somebody is electrocuted, it means that person has been killed by electricity. Now imagine that person dies as a result of that theft. Then you even know that you saw your neighbor that cable, or at the time the theft was being undertaken, you suspect the neighbor wasn't even around, he came back at night, then you don't report, which means you are, to God, you are guilty also of that murder, that innocent person who has died, and you live with it for the rest of your life since you haven't reported.
Yeah, I think we need to also to refer to the caller where she mentioned we know them as you heard. We know these people. And my question would be maybe in terms of awareness, how much as a councillor or maybe as government is put in place to provide sensitization, as it were, and also awareness to the people to say, report these cases. If you know someone being suspected, report them to the police. How much of such activities are being done in these communities?
Okay, thank you very much. That is vandalism of public infrastructure. And that infrastructure belongs to ZESCO. So the onus is on ZESCO to put up some attractive rewards for people who might have information concerning that. ZESCO makes money. At the end of the day, they make money. For example, the councillor's office doesn't make money because you cannot curb such kind of crime with using zero kwacha. No, that is impossible. In every move you make, for you to come up with quality results and attainable results, you need to invest money. ZESCO is a corporation, it's a profit-making company. Let it come up with innovation that with proper results to those who might have information, and it will attract a lot of witnesses to come on board. That's how it will end. That's what
they also seem to distance themselves from being a profit-making company. They say we just provide services, we're not even making profit. So as it stands, they don't have much money to resource and also fund such projects. What would you say on that?
Thank you very much for that. If they don't make money, it should by now it should have wound up. They get paid, and by the way, ZESCO is one of the companies which pays well to their employees in Zambia. So that statement to me is neither here nor there. They could have wound up.
Okay, thank you so much. If you are watching us from wherever you are watching us, even from Facebook, our page Camnet TV, you can just throw in your contribution and also your question. You have your councillor from your area who can actually represent other communities as well, not just Mutendere, but you can comment also other communities on these bordering issues. So you can just call in to contribute and also ask questions so that the councillor can actually handle them. Yeah, Zipporah.
So looking at how this issue borders on many areas, we're also looking at economic activities, like you said. So we're looking at this company, ZESCO, the power utility company, usually has maintenances, maintenance schedules, which cause electricity not to be there for some time. And yet we see that this theft also is negatively affecting people, like the councillor mentioned, saying we have businesses being negatively affected. So I think this is an issue which should be taken seriously because we see that it borders on many issues. It affects people's lives. It can lead to death. We also have the negative impact of the economy because for the people are not having, many people are in the small and medium enterprises sector, which depends on electricity. And like we said, it's not only Mutendere, but many other parts of the country which face this problem. So if this continues, then we're going to see a regression of many economic activities. So another interesting topic is the issue of indiscriminate waste disposal in our communities. Recently, we saw the Minister of Health, Madam Sylvia Masebo, saying we have an outbreak of diarrhea diseases here in Lusaka. And yet when you go to most of our communities, we find that the drainages are filled up with garbage. We find the communities are filled with debt. So, Mr. Chibeka, maybe what's your comment on the issue of indiscriminate waste disposal in our communities? What causes it and what can we do maybe to end the issue?
Thank you very much. And at this juncture, I would like also to appreciate the efforts made by the health department from Lusaka City Council, the team from Lusaka City Council from health department, from public health department, because some members of a particular location that is between Karikiriki and Mutendere at C-section, they reported to my office and I didn't delay. Immediately I informed the public health department and who came on board. I went with them. There what people are doing that they've built toilets just next to the stream, which is also the main drainage of that area, and you know that area gets floods every year. They've built those toilets, then they are discharging fecal matter in those drainages. And the area is so pathetic, it's smelling, and whenever there's a downpour, you know that area is a flood-prone area, and that same water goes into people's homes. Then the other thing is that they've thrown waste in the drainage, blocking the natural free flow of water, thereby causing floods. Again, they are disposing of waste indiscriminately in Mutendere, just anywhere. And I engaged the public health, and they promised me to come back that we'll go door by door. Whosoever household who won't have a receipt for waste disposal, will be surcharged and penalized and taken to fast track court. So the effects of these are diseases. Of course, was it some 2 weeks ago, we had some waterborne diseases such as
typhoid, dysentery. Yes, they were suspected.
Yes, like typhoid and dysentery, but cholera not yet. And you know, Mtendere has been hosting cholera events.
It's one of the epic centers.
Yes, exactly. So I'm appealing to the community there to avoid throwing waste indiscriminate and subscribe to community-based enterprise. We are CB Easy. They are there in your area. Do not give those junkies to go and throw on your behalf, because while they take, you don't know why they take it. They just throw them like Mahatma Gandhi. It's littered now with the waste. And that other week we were cleaning it. Just 2 weeks after, again, that waste is back there. Just even at the library in Mtendere, Lusaka City Council Library, it has also some colossal sum of garbage there.
Okay, so I think one thing we have to, many people from the stories we have been doing, some people say, no, it's costly, so they go at night and dump the waste in the community. But I think maybe that's one area the Lusaka City Council will have to review. Maybe we have to approach the Lusaka City Council.
Maybe you can even just, how much is it in terms of subscription?
50 kwacha per household, that's what I understand.
So that goes for a month?
For a whole month.
That's for a month, yes.
Okay. So meaning they are now complaining to say 50 kwacha is just too much. Would you think it can be maybe revisited in terms of pricings?
You see, the way the economy works is that 50 kwacha can be too much to you, then it can be too little to me. But to me, what matters is that to engage the community and come up with an acceptable price. You will find that those who are even saying 50 kwacha is enough, you will find that they almost every day they buy beers in the evening and drink. A beer maybe at 15 kwacha one, and they drink maybe 10 beers almost on daily basis. Then you tell you that throwing garbage to light-free place is 50 kwacha is too much. Those dynamics of life.
Okay, maybe let's have you call in to just contribute on the issue of pricings. Do you feel it's costly, or do you feel it's just favorable in your area as we get to discuss other issues? So you can just call in or text on our platforms. Yes.
And one other thing maybe which people forget is that they're saying it's costly to pay 50 kwacha, but if they get sick, what are they going to incur? They're going to incur various costs to take care of their health. So I think that's one area where people need a mindset change. And
maybe before we move on, Mr. Chweka, in terms of you as a councillor on a personal level, when you passed across these dump sites, designated dump sites, what crosses your mind? How do you feel as it were?
I feel sick, of course, every time I see garbage, because you know, garbage is a reject from our household, from our normal system. We are not supposed to interact with garbage, because we have rejected it already from our household. So for me to interact with it from another point, I feel sick. So me, what I want to look forward to a situation whereby garbage, immediately there's a generation of waste, it is collected and cleaned up. Of course, it is impossible. It has to be stored somewhere, maybe for a week or so. Then they carry it to the landfill, like at Chunga, the way it is at Chunga.
Okay, can that be done maybe before the rain season kicks in? Because that time the cases will be very, very damaging in terms of health. So can everything that is being put in place be put in place before that time?
Yes, exactly. And I've been working with the Department of Public Health from Lusaka City Council, and they've been very proactive with that matter. I cannot downplay their efforts. They are really working hard. They are cleaning the city. That's why, if you remember, I said that I'm not just a councillor from Tendere. It's for the Lusaka City Council. We are in a blog that is in a WhatsApp group. I'm able to tell, even if they are not in Mtendere, they will be in Karikiriki. Even if they are not in Karikiriki, they will be in Karingaringa, they will be in Kanyama. We're able to trace where they are working from almost each and every time. So those guys are working very well. And this week again, they are coming to Mtendere, and we shall mop up the garbage which has been thrown indiscriminately. Though I'm not encouraging people now to go and throw that. No, they are coming. You'll be arrested. And you know, one thing, People, they may take people to police that no, he was throwing garbage, and you find that the police, they don't know what to charge to give it to that person. Then he will be released. So I'm appealing to Zema. Zema should come up with deliberate policy, not just to concentrate on those buildings. Who is erecting on who? Who is electing on which precious land? Is it on Forest 29? Is it Forest 10?
Forest 27?
Zema should come on board throughout now. You know, this is environmental matters, because it is the only body that which has been empowered by the Environmental Management Act, that is Act number 11 of 2012, to perform such functions for environmental issues. So waste management, it falls under the law, under Environmental Management Act. Now, if you look at my Environmental Management Act, there are a lot of pieces of legislation, especially on the penalties. Especially on the penalties, you see that such disposal of waste indiscriminately, it is already covered there. They need to come on board, not only police officers. You find that police officers, they are only taught how to handle Capo 87 on the laws of Zambia, which is the penal code. They should also be taught to handle the Environmental Management Act, especially on waste management. You find that a lot of people will be prosecuted and they will even stop. And our country, the cities, the wards, the constituencies will become clean. Once that is like oriented to the police officers. Because even now, so they catch a person who was throwing, they will take him there. They don't know what charge to give to that person.
Sure. I think it goes down to what you mentioned earlier. It's about personal character, I'm sure, because I don't think they are scared of such fines. Do you think so? Like when I throw there, the police will come and arrest me. Are they scared of such fines, the residents?
But if you look at the Environmental Management Act, you find that it also attracts a custodial sentence of up to 5 years imprisonment. Apart from a fine, it can be a fine, a custodial sentence of up to 5 years, or both. So once that is invoked and oriented to our men and women in uniform at community level, that is police, you find that a lot of people are going now to desist from doing that. So those fines like 50 kwacha, tomorrow they will come back. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Zipporah?
Yeah, I think if a hefty fine is imposed, I'm sure maybe this could help to curb some of these things, because the fine, so I'm sure they will realize that it's better they pay the 50 kwacha than they get fined with the same money. And so we're looking at the rain season, which has already started, and we're trying to avoid an outbreak. We're trying to avoid an outbreak of cholera, diseases such as cholera. And you've seen that this has been ongoing for many years. So as a councillor, do you plan to maybe carry out community sensitization along with other civic leaders to sensitize residents of Mutendere on the issue of indiscriminate waste disposal, the advantages that it brings along with it?
Yes, we have intentions, and even a month ago we had that sensitization program when Unique were in Mtendere. Unique is a company which is now laying pipes for sewer and water, which has taken over from E-Level. So we had such a platform, and we explained to the people the importance of waste management, because there are some people right now in Mtendere who have even connected to the sewer system, which is not yet complete, and all the waste are now on the street. Yes, so we had such an opportunity, and I'm looking forward to engaging more and more on the community with that. Okay.
So I think we're getting ready to wind up the program. Is there anything else maybe which is happening in Mutendere which you may want to highlight or maybe just talk about?
Yes, I'm appealing to Mutendere residents to respect family values. If they don't respect family values, that's why how come we have junkies? Because look at, I receive a lot of reports from my office that people's husbands have run away from their homes. They have run away from their children. They are running away from their wives. Now, who do you think will take care of your children if you run away from your wife, your children? Okay, suppose you run away from your wife. To me, I don't know the reasons you have advanced, but those are your children. But the children are your children. Take care of your children. We have a lot of street kids. We have a lot of junkie because a lot of men have run away from their families. They've run away from their wives. You find that he's running away from a wife of 4 children, 5 children. I'm receiving a lot of report to my office. Their wives are coming to my office over that. So let's value our families. Let's value our children. Let's value our wives and husbands so that we build a strong community of Mtendere. That's what I can say.
All right, thank you very much. We were joined by Mr. Boniface Chiweka, Mtendere Ward 34 Councillor. We handled issues of junkies, electricity cable theft, and indiscriminate waste disposal. Join us next week, Monday, at the exact same time as we talk about issues affecting your communities. You can let us know what is happening in your communities via our Facebook page, things that you may want us to highlight on, because our objective is to bring a change to our communities. And see you next time.